Hey Tube, welcome back. Today we continue our course in AWS Serverless Fundamentals, and we talk today in Lambda execution environment. I guess in all the other next videos, like maybe like the 30, 40 next videos, it will be all about Lambda. So today we'll talk about the Lambda execution environment, and in my opinion, it's really important to know how the Lambda function being invoked and what is going on for the function for any Lambda function to be executed to understand what's going on here. So the Lambda invokes your functions in an execution environment, which provides a secure and isolated runtime environment. So let's say that we have like, for example, let's make this one, and we have Lambda functions here. This is the Lambda function service, or let's call it just the Lambda service. And this Lambda service will connect with an execution environment. Like, let me copy this one. And I guess we need to make it quite long. And this execution environment is responsible to provide a secure and isolated runtime environment for your Lambda function. Basically, the execution environment manages the resources required to run your function. And the execution environment also provides lifecycle support for the function's runtime and any external extension associated with your function. The function's runtime communicate with the Lambda using a runtime API. The extension communicate with the Lambda using an extension API, and the extensions can also receive log messages and other telemetry from the function by using the telemetry API. So we have three APIs as we said before. So let's just add three of them. So first we said that we have runtime API, and in the future I will make video about each one of them. What is a runtime API? And if you don't know what is a runtime API, like, let me copy this. I'll make the size. Okay. I guess I didn't copy it. So we have runtime API, we have extension API, and we have telemetry API. And we can just say that this is the section that is responsible for the API endpoint. I guess we need to make this quite like bigger. Yeah. And here we could say we could make and this API endpoints, they'll communicate with the process, which will be like we can say a runtime plus the function. And also we have the extension section. Yep. We have the extension. This is the process section. You can refer this one as the API endpoints. and this is the and this sorry I was quite away from the phone, from the mic, and this is the process section. Process. And all of that is going through the runtime API. Can we make this yeah. So let's just try to describe what's going on here. When you create your Lambda function, you specify configuration information such as the amount of memory available and the maximum execution time allowed for your function. Lambda uses this information to set up the execution environment. And the functions runtime and each external extensions are processes that that run within the execution environment. Permission, resources, credential, and environment variables are shared between the function and the extensions. So let's just try to think about first let's just so what is a runtime, what's extension API, what's the terminal API, and what's going on here. So first let's just try to talk about what is the runtime API. So the runtime API in conclusion, like AWS provides an HTTP API for custom runtimes to receive invocations, events, and from Lambda and send response data back within the Lambda execution environment. The Open API specification for Lambda for the runtime API version, I guess we're using like version 2018-0601. I don't know, I don't remember, but anyway, so basically it just the runtime, it just basically it provide you an HTTP API to run. And the extension API, like Lambda function, authors use extensions to integrate Lambda with their preferred tools for monitoring, maybe governance, security. Basically the function authors can use extensions from AWS, like you have AWS partner, and open source projects. For more information, we will create a new video about the extension API. And the telemetry API, basically the telemetry API here, which basically using Lambda telemetry API, your extensions can directly receive telemetry data from Lambda. Like during the function initialization and invocation, Lambda automatically captures telemetry such as logs, platform metrics, and platform traces with the telemetry API. Basically, the extensions can get this telemetry data directly from Lambda in near real time. You can subscribe your Lambda extensions to telemetry stream directly from within the Lambda extension environment. After like subscribing, Lambda automatically streams all the telemetry data to your extensions. You can then process, filter, and deliver the data to your preferred destination, such as an Amazon simple storage servers like the S3 bucket, or maybe a CQS. Maybe you can work, I don't know, DynamoDB, whatever you want. So this is the three things that we talk about: the runtime and the function, and we have here the extension. If you want to talk about what is extension and what is the extra extensions, so basically you can use Lambda extensions to augment your Lambda functions. For example, you can use like Lambda extensions to integrate functions with your preferred monitoring, observability, security, and governance tools. You can choose from a broad set of tools that AWS Lambda partners use, or you can create your own Lambda extension. Like Lambda support external and internal extensions, and external extensions run as independent process in the extensions environment and continues to run after the function invocation is fully processed, because extensions run as separate process. Basically, you can run them in different languages than the function. All Lambda runtime support extensions. So these are the extensions, and these are the runtime. And as you can see, they are isolated from the functions because they are totally isolated. We talked about the runtime, we talked about extensions, the elementary, we talked about the Lambda function, and we see right now how it is secure. So in conclusion, AWS Lambda execution environment is the infrastructure that AWS provides for running your Lambda function. In my opinion, understanding the execution environment is crucial for optimizing your Lambda function and ensuring they run efficiently and reliably. And I will just maybe talk about some stuff here. I want to talk about some characteristics about the runtime environment and why it's quite important and why it's scalable in my opinion. So let's just make here. So this video will be quite long. So first, it's the runtime environment is isolated. We said before, isolated and secure. Basically, each Lambda function runs in its own isolated environment, which its own resource and file system. The environment is secure and separate from other functions, even if they belong to the same account. We have the runtime. The AWS Lambda supports multiple runtimes like Node.js, Python, Java, etc. And you choose the runtime when you create the function. Also, the runtime is responsible for interpreting and execution of your Lambda function. We have it's stateless. So the execution environment is stateless by default, meaning it doesn't retain any information between invocation. Any persistent state needs to be stored in external service like maybe Amazon S3 or database. We have temporary file storage. And here Lambda functions can use like something called like a temp here directly to temporary storage with a limit of 512 megabytes. The content of the temporary directly are retained for the lifetime execution environment. We have also the container management, like AWS uses containers to manage executions in the Lambda function. We have the execution context, like when a container is reused, the execution context of the function is preserved. This includes like things like global variables and connections, etc. We can talk about the scaling environment variables, like a scaling Lambda function scale automatically. The environment variables, you can set environment variables for your Lambda function in the AWS Management Console or through AWS CLI. We have the networking and VPC, like by default, Lambda functions are executed within a VPC management by AWS Lambda. You can configure your Lambda function to access resources within a private VPC in your AWS account. So I guess this video is quite long, but it's quite important to understand how the execution environment work and what is the important keys and characteristics about it. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope you like my content. If you like my content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a video, and see you in future problem.